Let's talk about the difference between pre-aiming an angle and smoothing an angle and when you should do each one. So starting with pre-aiming, a lot of people already know what this is. It's when you aim at an angle through the wall like this, and then you just use your movement keys to peek into it. For example, if I think somebody might be holding right here, I will aim at that spot and then I'll swing out so that my crosshair is exactly there. Okay, now let's talk about smoothing an angle. Not a lot of people know what smoothing an angle is. Smoothing an angle is when you follow the wall as you move. So basically it's like this, where you follow the angle as you peek out like this. So instead of pre-aiming the angle, what I'm doing is I'm actually following the angle itself with my mouse, and this requires me to move my mouse with my movement keys. Whereas with pre-aiming, you just aim at a spot and then use your movement keys to peek into it, and then if they're there, you can micro adjust accordingly. Now let's talk about when you should pre-aim an angle and when you should smooth an angle. Smoothing is typically done on angles where you feel like there might be a player playing an off angle. So a really good example of this is B long on bind. A lot of people, especially oppers, will stand out in the open like this on an off angle. They're not exactly on common angles like this one right here or this one right here. They're not on these common angles. They will just stand in the open because let's say it's a jet with dash. That is when they're playing an off angle. So this B-long angle is very common for players to play an off angle. That's when you should be smoothing an angle, is when you expect a player to be playing an off angle. So like this B-long angle, you would smooth it out slowly like this because you would expect somebody to maybe be standing right here. That's when you should be smoothing angles, is when you're peeking into an angle that has multiple areas where people can play off angles. Whereas if I'm peeking into the B site, I would rather pre-aim instead of smooth, because on the B site, it's very rare that somebody is just going to be standing right here in the open holding this. So in this case, I would rather do a pre-aim where I pre-aim the first angle, and then I move on to the second angle, which is right here, and then I move on to cubby, which is right here. And then after I peek the B site, I might smooth the entire garden angle, because in garden, people love to play these off angles. They could be anywhere along this wall, right? So once I move on to garden, then I might want to move into a smooth where I clear all of these angles slowly one by one instead of pre-aiming it. So hopefully that explains smoothing versus pre-aiming a little bit and helps you understand when you should do each.